Most people over 60 have heard the same comforting message about nuts. They are natural, they are low in carbs, they have healthy fats, so they must be a safe, everyday food for blood sugar. That sounds sensible, and sometimes it is. But that simple belief hides a problem older adults run into all the time. The nut itself is often not the whole issue. The coating matters, the portion matters, the timing matters, and the way you eat it matters more than most people realize. A bowl that looks harmless can become a steady source of extra sugar, extra calories, and more blood sugar drift than you expected. So before we count down the worst and best choices, here is a quick rule you can use in the store, in your kitchen, or even standing beside the pantry. Plain, portioned, paired. Ask 3 questions. Is this nut plain, or has it been turned into candy? Is the portion decided, or am I about to eat from a bag? And is it paired with a real meal or snack plan, or am I just grazing? That tiny test takes seconds, but after 60, it can save you from the kind of healthy habit that slowly pushes diabetes, weight, and energy in the wrong direction. And many of the biggest problems start with products that look wholesome, premium, and completely diabetes-friendly. This matters more after 60 because many people are not starting from a blank slate. Blood sugar may already run a little higher in the morning. Muscle mass may be lower than it was years ago. You may be less active than you once were. You may also be watching blood pressure, sleep, waist size, or A1C at the same time. That means a snack you repeat every day can shape more than one problem at once. A nut habit that leads to overeating, evening grazing, or hidden sugar does not stay small for long. It can affect appetite, weight, energy, and glucose stability. And when energy feels less steady, independence can feel less steady too. That is the point. If this topic feels familiar, leave a 1 in the comments below, so I know you want more practical diabetes-friendly grocery guidance for adults over 60 trying to eat with more confidence daily. Number 4. Sweet-coated nuts. This category catches people because it still looks like nuts. Maybe it is honey roasted. Maybe it is maple glazed. Maybe it says lightly sweetened or made with real honey. That wording sounds harmless, but for diabetes after 60, that is the problem. A sweet coating changes the reward and the portion. It makes the nut easier to keep eating. It turns a food that might have slowed you down into a product that wakes up the sweet tooth again. And once that happens, you are not just eating nuts anymore. You are eating a dessert snack wearing a health costume. Older adults often choose these products thinking they are a compromise. Not candy, not cookies, just nuts. But when sugar sticks to the outside, every handful becomes easier to justify and harder to stop. The smarter move is honesty. If it tastes like candy, treat it like candy. Use it rarely, not daily. And if you enjoy it, put a serving in a small dish and close the bag before the first bite. Number 3. Trail mixes built like sweets. This is one of the most common blood sugar traps in the grocery store. People see nuts, seeds, raisins, dried cranberries, yogurt chips, maybe dark chocolate pieces, and assume balance. But many trail mixes are layered for repeat snacking. A little salt, a little sweetness, a little chew, a little crunch. That combination can keep your hand moving after hunger is gone. For diabetes, the issue is not that dried fruit is evil, or that a few nuts are bad. The issue is concentration. When sweet fruit, sugary add-ins, and calorie-dense nuts live in one easy handful, portion awareness tends to disappear. And after 60, appetite signals are not always as sharp as they once were. You may not feel overfull right away. You may only notice later that your reading turned into nibbling. Then your dinner was light, your snack was heavy, and your glucose pattern makes less sense. This is why trail mix deserves more caution than its healthy image suggests. If you want it, build your own. Use mostly nuts or seeds. Add a small amount of unsweetened dried fruit if it works for you. Skip the candy pieces. And never call a candy-style trail mix a health food just because nuts are included. Number 2. Dessert-style nut butters. This is where labels mislead people beautifully. Creamy, protein, keto, natural. Those words sound reassuring, but many spreads made from nuts are really sweet spreads with a nut base. They may include sugar, syrups, chocolate flavor, cookie pieces, palm oil, or enough extras to turn one spoonful into a nightly habit. And because the texture is soft and smooth, portion control gets harder. You do not have shells. You do not have crunch. You do not have a natural stopping point. You just have a jar and a spoon. For adults over 60, that can quietly become a blood sugar problem. Sweetened nut butters are easy to overeat, and they often slide into the day at bad times. A spoonful while cooking, another after dinner, a little more on toast that was already sweet. Now a food that looked protein-rich is really helping push a dessert pattern. The practical fix is simple. Buy the shortest ingredient list you can find, measure the serving, and use it on purpose, not by reflex. A tablespoon on apple slices is very different from several wandering spoonfuls taken in the kitchen at night. Number 1. Open-bag mixed nuts that become all-day grazing. This may be the quietest trap of all because plain nuts can still be healthy. That is what makes this easy to miss. The danger is not always the nut. It is the routine. A large container sits on the counter. A bowl stays beside the chair. You grab some between breakfast and lunch, then again while watching television. Nothing feels dramatic. Nothing feels sugary. But the calories keep adding up, and portions stop being visible. For diabetes after 60, that pattern can matter more than many people think. Extra weight around the middle can make glucose control harder. Mindless snacking can replace balanced meals. And late evening grazing can leave you confused about why your numbers drift upward. This is where many adults tell themselves, at least it was only nuts. But only nuts can still become too much when the bag never closes. The answer is not to ban nuts. The answer is to stop the endless access. Pour la portion, put the rest away. Give nuts a job. Add them to breakfast. Use them in a planned snack. Or put them on a salad at lunch. Do not let them become background eating. Background eating is where good foods become unhelpful foods. Now let's turn the corner. Because the goal is not just to remove the habits that make diabetes management harder. It is to replace them with nut routines that are calmer, cleaner, and easier to repeat. Some choices help because they slow you down. Some help because they make portion control visible. Some help because they fit into a planned meal instead of floating through the day. And that difference matters. After 60, foods are often not the most exciting ones. They are the ones you can live with, trust, and repeat without creating problems daily. Best number 4. Single ingredient dry roasted nuts. This may sound too simple to deserve a place on the list, but simplicity is the advantage. When a nut product contains the nut and almost nothing else, you remove several common diabetes problems at once. There is less surprise sugar, there is less flavor engineering, and there are fewer reasons to keep reaching. For older adults, that matters. A food that is boring in the best way can be easier to trust. It lets you taste actual hunger and fullness instead of chasing coating, crunch dust, and sweet salty reward. Dry roasted or raw nuts also make label reading easier. You can tell quickly whether the product stayed close to the food you meant to buy. That is an advantage after 60. When the easier a rule is to repeat, the more likely it is to protect you. Plain nuts are not magic. They still need a portion, but they give you a cleaner starting point, and a clean starting point makes better decisions easier later. Best number 3. Pre-portioned nuts. This is one of the most powerful upgrades because it solves a problem before the first bite. Instead of asking for willpower in the moment, it builds the stop sign into the routine. A small container, a measured cup, a snack bag you filled on purpose. That sounds basic, but basic is often exactly what works. Older adults do better with visible boundaries than invisible intention. When the serving is decided before hunger arrives, the mind has less work to do. And for diabetes, less guesswork usually means more consistency. Pre-portioned nuts are especially helpful for people who eat while reading, driving, or talking on the phone. Those are the moments when open containers become risky. A measured portion turns a wandering snack into a planned one. It can also help you notice patterns. Maybe one portion keeps you satisfied until lunch. Maybe 2 does not feel better than 1. You do not get that feedback from a large tub. Do not underestimate the quiet power of a container that says, "This is enough for now." That is structure. And structure protects older adults more often than motivation does. Best number 2. Nuts paired with foods at a planned snack time. This is where nuts become more than a snack. They become part of a glucose strategy. A measured portion of nuts beside plain yogurt, berries, sliced apple, or vegetables can create a steadier snack than nuts alone, because pairing changes the eating experience. It slows the pace. It improves satisfaction, and it often reduces the urge to circle back for something sweet later. For diabetes after 60, That matters. Many glucose problems are not caused by one dramatic food. They are caused by a chain reaction. A tiny snack that does not satisfy, then another snack, then cravings, then fatigue, then the feeling that you need a treat. Pairing nuts with simple foods can interrupt that sequence. It gives the snack more shape and purpose. It also pushes nuts into the part of the day where they work best, planned, visible, and connected to real hunger. This is especially useful in the afternoon, when many adults are tired and more vulnerable to grazing. A small planned plate works differently from a handful grabbed in the kitchen. That is the hidden advantage. The same nut becomes helpful when the routine around it gets smarter. Best number 1. Nuts used as a measured replacement for refined snack foods. This is the most valuable use of nuts after 60 because it focuses on what they replace, not just what they contain. A measured portion of plain nuts will never look as exciting as crackers, cookies, sweet bars, or chips, and that is why it works. It lowers the emotional temperature of snacking. It makes the body work less hard to recover from peaks and crashes, and it turns food into support instead of stimulation. When nuts replace a sugary mid-morning bite, a lunch side, or a late evening handful of crackers, they can help simplify the day. Not perfectly, but meaningfully. This matters in diabetes care because consistency is rarely built from dramatic superfood. It is built from ordinary replacements repeated often enough to matter. One measured serving at breakfast can make a pastry less tempting. One planned serving with lunch can make the afternoon feel steadier. One simple serving in place of chips at night can keep the kitchen from turning into dinner again. That is why this earns the top spot. Nuts are most helpful when they stop competing with meals and start replacing the foods that usually create trouble. When you use them this way, you are not asking them to cure anything. You are giving them a job. And for older adults, clear jobs make healthy habits easier to keep. So here is the main takeaway. After 60, the smartest question is not, are nuts good or bad for diabetes? The better question is, what form am I buying? How much am I eating? And what job is this food doing in my day? Be careful with sweet-coated nuts, candy-style trail mixes, dessert nut butters, and open-bag grazing, because those patterns can quietly push appetite, weight, and blood sugar the wrong way. Lean more toward plain nuts, measured portions, planned pairings, and simple replacements for refined snacks. That is how nuts become useful again, not because they are perfect, not because they fix everything, but because they fit a steadier routine. And after 60, a steadier routine usually does more for diabetes than any food trend ever will. That is where healthy aging advice becomes practical enough for everyday use. And one important note before we finish. If you have diabetes complications, chronic kidney disease, trouble chewing, unintended weight loss, digestive problems, or you take medicines that affect appetite or blood sugar, your plan may need to be personal. The portion, the timing, and the snack combination can vary. So use this video as guidance, not as a substitute for your clinician, diabetes educator, or dietitian. A food that helps one adult over 60 may need adjustment for another. That is normal. Personalization is not failure. It is good care. So here is the easiest comment for today. Write plan if you are going to try the plain, portioned, paired rule this week. Or write snack if you want me to make a follow-up video on the best evening snacks for blood sugar after 60. And share this with a spouse, sibling, parent, or friend who still thinks every nut product is automatically safe for diabetes. Stay steady, stay practical, and I will see you in the next video soon.